Okay, so first we're going to start off with some fun questions. So, what were you like in high school?
High school. Interesting question. Nobody never asked me that one.
Mm-hmm.
I played tennis in high school. My dream was to become a professional tennis player.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at a very young age, I always felt that athletics would be my way out of the ghetto.
Yeah.
Um, I've always been kind of the same guy, easygoing, get along with everybody. Um, when I played football, I played quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
When I played baseball, I was a pitcher. Basketball, I was a point guard. So I've always been kind of like the guy who moves the team or leads the team along.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had those kind of skills. I was a little shy, I guess, when I was in high school because I was very poor.
Yeah.
I didn't have nice clothes, and sometimes I would feel inferior when I would see other kids, with nice tennis shoes and nice clothes. Me and my brothers used to share pants,
Mm-hmm.
so we didn't wear the same pants every day. We would swap out. He would wear my pants one day, I'd wear his pants. So I guess that gave me kind of like a little inferiority complex, like I wasn't as good as everybody else, in some ways. I also was illiterate during school, so I was going to special ed
Mm-hmm.
most of my school days. But, for the most part, I enjoyed my life, as a youth, Um, I guess that's kind of sums up, about what I was like in high school. Um, if you could choose any career in the world, if you had a magic wand,
Mm-hmm.
which you really do, a lot of us don't know that we do have the ability to be able to be whatever we want to be. It took me a while to learn that. Like I said, by me not being able to read and write, kind of limit the things that I thought that I could do. But later on in life, I found out that there's no limit to what I can do. What about you?
So right now, I believe that I am doing the one of the dream jobs that I could ever be doing because in boxing I'll have the freedom to accomplish whatever I want to if I want to ever venture into other things, and that's also what I'm doing with school. So right now I'm in college trying to get done with that as soon as possible. Make sure that I have the ability to go into whatever field I want to go to down the line.
Yeah, well, you have already accomplished some amazing things. When I sit here and I look at
Hmm.
your belts, it's
Yeah.
like, wow, for such a young age, and you may be the youngest person that ever interviewed me too, huh?
Yeah.
So, close to it. So you have accomplished a lot of great things, and um, one thing about me, I'm drawn to uh, brilliance.
Hmm.
I have like this fetish for brilliance.
Yeah.
I like to be around brilliant people, brilliant situations. So to get to sit here and talk to you, I feel honored.
How do you feel about people using the name Rick Ross?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I've had a lot of stuff stolen from me.
Hmm.
My name, my story, uh, my documentary, and sometimes it's frustrating. Um, you feel like people took advantage of you. But what I've learned in life is that when you have a lot, then that leaves the doors open so that people can take. And I have to feel fortunate that I'm so blessed to have so much that people would want to take from me, because they can't take from you if you don't have anything.
Hmm.
So I'm just fortunate that I have as much opportunity that I have, and that I'm able to do the things that I do, and,
Yeah.
and, and I hope in the future that there's more things that people take from me, so
Hmm.
that means that I have more stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't really, I think, it's disrespectful, it shows a lack of uh, uh, creativity, on that person's part. But it also kind of shows how they felt about you, that they felt you were brilliant, that they felt you were unique, because people don't take from, like I said earlier, they don't take from people who are not brilliant, who are not unique. So for them to take from me, it makes me unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now if you were stranded on an island and you only had a choice of one thing, what would that be?
If I could, I would take my family with me, but maybe
No, you can't have your family.
yeah, maybe a video game console or some type of thing to keep me entertained during the time on that.
Well, how you gonna play on the internet? You don't have internet.
So maybe a good book, a infinite long book where I could just stay there reading all day.
What about a book on how to build a raft?
Oh yeah. I'll need one of those. I'll need one of those.
Yeah, that would be a good book to have.
So what would you say is your biggest deal breaker, pet peeve when making relationships with people?
Well, what usually break deals with me is when people intentionally try to sabotage what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like sometimes you'll have friends and they're supposed to be helping you,
Yeah.
but behind your back, they go and try to steal something or take something for themselves,
Yeah.
and it mess up the whole thing. Now, I wouldn't get mad at my friend if they made a mistake and sabotaged the project. That's different because you made a mistake, honest mistake. But if you intentionally do something to me to sabotage what I'm doing, I take that personal.
Yeah.
I know you got a lot of great attributes. You know, you're doing a lot of stuff, man. Going to college at 14, being one of the best boxers in amateur boxing. But what do you think is your greatest asset?
I would say my dedication, because when it comes to all of the things that I'm doing, making sure that I always stay on focus, making sure that I accomplish and complete the right things, yeah, it would be my dedication.
Where you get that dedication from?
I think it's mainly from boxing, starting from a young age, having both of my parents there working with me, trying to make sure I always stay on the right thing. That instilled that into me.
And it's rare, you know, blacks in America having two parents in the
Yeah.
house working together on the same accord. You know, one of my guys said that's a miracle.
Yeah.
To have two people working toward the same goal. So now you got three people working toward the same goal. So that's like, wow.
Yeah. So what would you say is the reason you got the name Freeway?
I know exactly why I got the name Freeway. My mom's house was right next to the freeway. We played football on the side of the freeway. We played basketball on the side of the freeway. We rode our dirt bikes. I mean, it was kind of like a dead-end street. It wasn't a dead end, but it was kind of like a street that nobody really used. And that was our playground.
Yeah.
And when I got older, we started stealing cars, and we would strip the cars right there on the side of the freeway. So it was this guy, and he was like one of the biggest lowriders in LA, and he knew where we stayed at and where we did our cars at and stuff. So when we come to the street races one day, he said, "Oh, there come those junky ass freeway boys," and that name stuck because he was so popular, you know, in the streets. And as I became more popular in my endeavors, the name just really like became etched in stone.
Okay.
So now we already know you done accomplished like mountains and mountains of just, you know, your resume is just like crazy. You know, that's why I'm here to talk to you, because I was like, I got to touch this youngster, you know, before he just like goes to outer space, you know. But this is a new year. And I know great athletes, you know, they always try to outdo themselves. It's something about you guys, you know, you never be like, oh yeah, I just broke all the records, I'm good. No, you want to break that record your own self. So what is you plan on doing this year, man, to outdo what you did last year?
So I still am in college at the moment, so I'd like to continue striving there. And then I have another tournament coming up in Detroit from March 18th to the 25th. I just now recently saw that one of the people that I fought in the last tournament registered in this one, so I'll get to fight them again. But to make sure I keep on winning those national tournaments, making sure that I get the Junior Olympics and the USA Nationals under my belt again.
Wow.
Who would you say is your favorite boxer?
You know, that's a trick question. I manage about 7 guys, and if I said that, I know one of them would be mad. But Anthony Peterson, I definitely had a special relationship with Anthony, and not just for boxing. I mean, he is like a little brother that I wish I would have been there for his career when he first started. You know, he probably would be worth $40–50 million right now. But he's just one of those guys that you just like, you just gotta like him, you know. Kid Austin is a good kid too, you know. I work with Kid Austin. But the relationship with me and him is not how me and Anthony has grown, you know, over these past year and a half. It's just like materialized and he listens, you know, like I can tell him something and he gets it. And I guess that's part of how you guys got to do in boxing, you know, when your coach yell out a assignment to you, you got to do that assignment. You know, you can't like, oh, I'm gonna wait 5 minutes to do the assignment. So I guess that's part of your training. But yeah, Anthony is definitely a special guy who I love working with him, you know, and I just wish I would have been at the beginning of his career.
Okay, so what would you say is your favorite style of boxing? Maybe if it's long range or
I mean, you
brawling
know,
or
to me, boxing is an art, you know, and I know styles make fights, and the long range is good, you know, the jab, you know, to see somebody with a great jab. And I'm learning all that too, right, as I go, you know, because I didn't box. I wasn't a big fan of boxing before, you know. I probably went to maybe 8 or 9 fights, and it was because of my girlfriend, you know, drugged me to him, you know, like, get over here, we going to the fight. So I was never really a big fan of boxing, but I went to the Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard fight, and Don King came to the table where we were all sitting at, and he shook everybody's hand. And when I went to prison, I thought back on my life, what would have happened if I would have told Don King I had $3 million that I would be willing to give to him to teach me boxing. And had I been thinking right, I would have done that because I was always trying to buy my way out of the drug game. You know, I couldn't leave because I never had a steady income, you know, an income that would sustain me, sustain my family and my loved ones. So, but when I was sitting in prison and I thought about that, I thought about where would I have been had I told Don King if he took me under his wing, I would have gave him all the money I had in my pocket.
So how was your experience in prison, and how did you learn to read during that time?
Well, like I said earlier, you know, when I was in high school and junior high school, I thought I was inferior, you know. And I always thought too, you know, I thought like everything just came from heaven. You know, like you pray, and one day you would wake up, and everything was going to be fixed. You know, nobody ever explained to me that you had to study reading. You know what I'm saying? That reading was something that was learned and taught and chased. You know, you have to really like chase. It's almost like riches. You know, when I was in prison, I read over 300 books too. So
Wow.
I'm not the average bear. I might look like it, but I educated myself when I was in prison. I actually fell in love with reading. And that leads me to another one that one of the things that I found out why reading didn't interest me is because the books that I was reading, they didn't look like me. They wasn't talking about the things that I was interested in. You know, I never cared what Jack and Jill was doing going up a hill. You know, that didn't interest me. When I was in school, I didn't see a reason to read. You know, that was like, why would I read a book? You know, my friends don't read books. They carry guns. They sell dope. You know, they steal cars. None of them carry books. So I never had a reason to want to read. But when I went to prison, what I found out is that the way out of prison was through the law library, and the only way you could use the law library was learn how to read. So one of my friends made me some cue cards and taught me how to do my ABCs. I had to go all the way back over. I had to start from the root, you know, which is learning how to sound out your letters and stuff. But, you know, when I was growing up, we were very poor. You know, we had roaches, rats, holes in the floor. You know, our kitchen sink leaked so much that we had a bucket that we put up under the sink to catch the water, and then you had to go pour the water in the toilet. But from that happening, it put a hole inside of the kitchen cabinet. So my concern was to make sure that my little sisters and brothers didn't have to go through what I went through, you know, and for me, it meant by any means necessary. You know, if it meant for me going to prison, then that's what it was. I was willing to sacrifice myself for my family to live a better life.
Okay, and then how would you say was your experience in prison? What was it like day-to-day life?
Prison, you know, prison can be hell. You know, you're talking about, you know, most people don't like to be told what to do, but in prison, you're totally told what to do. You know, they tell you what time you can take a shower. They tell you sometimes even when you can use the bathroom. You know, you don't even have the privilege of using the bathroom all the time. Most of the time you do. You know, if you're in your cell, you got a toilet inside your cell so you can go. But there's times you're going to be in positions where you can't even use the bathroom when you want to. You know, you have to wait until an officer who could be, you know, officer from hell. You know, I done had officers from hell where they deliberately try to punish you for whatever reason, you know, skinheads or whatever is on their mind. But prison can be hell. I saw people get stabbed. I saw a guy get beat in the head with a baseball bat. I saw a guy get hit over the head with a mop wringer. Those mop wringers were dangerous too. I think he died from that. They made out of metal and really heavy, and the guy over a TV. The guy was watching the stories, and he watched the stories every day at that time. And this new guy came in, and he turned the TV, you know, and he told him if he ever turned that TV again, he was gonna kill him. Mm-hmm. And the guy turned again, and he did. So, you know, prison can be hell. But with me, I spent my time in the law library because I wanted to get out of prison. I found out that prison wasn't a place that I wanted to be, and I wanted to go home. Mm-hmm. So I stayed in the library. I studied hard. Like I said, I learned how to read. Before I left, I read over 300 books. Yeah. So a guy told me one time, you either get your degree at Penn State or the state pen. And I was in the state pen, so I was going to get my degree. When you're getting ready for a fight, mm-hmm. How do you assess your opponents?
So when it comes to before the fight, maybe some couple of days before, I don't normally watch my opponents too much. My dad or my parents, they're the one seeing what they do. But when it comes to like the day before, if I'm at nationals and we both fought the day prior, then I'll see the way that the person fought or what I could do to exploit the things that they did wrong. But then when it comes to on the fight day, it just that first round depicts how the rest of the fight goes. So if I put that all into it and know that I still got energy left after that, then I know that I have that fight.
Mm-hmm. Now, you got 3 people in the ring with you, really. Mm-hmm. You got your mom and your dad, because all of the things that they help you with, you take into the ring with you.
Yeah, and then my mom is also, she has her coaching license, so both of them are in the corner with me as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're lucky.
Yeah.
You know, one of my friends who played tennis with me in high school, and I helped him go on the circuit to play tennis when he turned pro. And one of the things that we just did a documentary. We just did a documentary on tennis a couple days ago, and he said one of the things that he found about himself is that he was out on the circuit by himself, and it was lonely. And he was playing against people, had coaches, and their mom was there, and they had their cheerleaders, and you know, and he was saying that it was so different not having that support, you know, not having that backing. So with you having your mom and dad in them, it must be good to have that backing.
Yeah, it is. So when it comes to drug dealing, how did you get involved into that?
Well, I had just got arrested for grand theft auto, meaning stealing a car.
Yeah.
And that had been the way that I had been making my money. And I didn't know what I was gonna do for money, so I was kind of like bummed out, you know, like sitting on my mom's porch, didn't know what I was doing, what I was gonna do. And then my friend called me, a guy by the name of Michael McLaurin, and he was like, "Hey Rick, come by the house. I got the new thing." He played football for San Jose State at the time, and he was coming back from college. And I go over to his house, and he showed me cocaine for the first time. And I don't know, with my mind is just like, if I see something, just like the guys who taught me how to steal cars, I got bigger than them in stealing cars, you know. So when he showed it to me, I said, if what he's telling me is true, I'm gonna be rich. And he was telling the truth, you know. As for my past, I don't hide from my past. You know, I wrote a book about it. You know, I thought it was important, right, for me to share my story with young people who may not know. Because, say for instance, if you go and talk to Mike McLaurin, he's dead now, the guy who introduced me. But had you went and talked to him about selling drugs, he would have gave you the story that was all glamour and glitter.
Yeah.
But when I tell the story of glamour and glitter, then drastic heartache, drastic pain, disappointment. So no, I don't shy away from my story. You know, one of the people that I wanted to meet when I got home from prison was Minister Louis Farrakhan, and when I went and met with him, he told me that I could be embarrassed of my past, or I could look at my past as a scientist, meaning that all of the lessons that I learned from selling drugs, I could now share with other young men, so now that thousands and thousands of young men may not make the same mistake that I made. And that's the way I took his advice, and that's the way that I try to use my story. Am I doing it right? I don't know yet, but that's my intention.
And you said you have a book. What would be the name of that?
My book is called Freeway, Ricky Raw's Untold Autobiography, and I also have another one book called 21 Keys to Success. All right, now, when I used to play tennis, when I get ready to get on the match, I'll be jittery. You know, even my little daughter, I got a daughter that's 10 years old that plays right now, right? And she told me, "Daddy, I can't move." So in your sport though, you gotta move. You can't freeze up. You know, how do you control your nerves?
So the way that I deal with nerves, I have the family aspect that has stayed with me from the age of 5 whenever I started boxing. And then also when I went to my first national tournament, it was just me and my dad. And when I went there, it was being in the big space, having so many people watching you. It was a little bit of nerves, but knowing that I have a dad that was in the sport, and knowing that these fights, it could bring me somewhere, so I made sure to take any opportunity that I could, and those nerves kind of went away as I continued to box. So can you talk about some of the new projects that you have regarding, if it is boxing or just going around talking about your story? What would it be?
Well, new projects. We posted this month. My movie goes in pre-production. Excited about that, like crazy. You know, I've been working on this movie for almost 30 years now. I've had quite a few people who are no longer with us. George Jackson worked with me. A couple other people who are no longer with us work with me. But I do have a great team right now. You know, I got Reginald Hutland running the point, which I'm ecstatic about. Mike Ho, who we just got as a director, and I'm ecstatic about the way it's coming along. But the thing that I'm probably most passionate about is my two babies who play tennis. And I mean, like, for me, that's like my dream. I go Wednesday though to pay my invoice for my dispensary. You know, I'll have a dispensary in Los Angeles, so I'm excited about that. Uh, I was building a marijuana grow that would have made me like $3 million a month.
Oh,
We're going through some deals with it now. The guy tried to take it back from me, so the lawyers look like they think I'm going to wind up getting my building back. So I'm working on that. I'm excited about that. Boxing, you know, with the way my boxing is going right now, it's pretty amazing as well. You know, sitting here with you, you know,
yeah.
talking to one of the best amateur boxers in the world. For me, that's amazing. You know, 3 years ago, I didn't know anybody in boxing. You know what I'm saying? So to come from there to being, you know, sitting with somebody that is decorated as you are, I'm ecstatic about that.
So for, as you said, your movie, do you have a title for that?
Yeah, right now we're calling it the untold, no, the unauthorized Rick Ross story.
Okay.
So I guess that title means that we haven't named it, but the working title is the Rick Ross story.
Okay.
But that's not necessarily going to be what it's going to be. But it definitely will be named something around Rick Ross, Freeway Rick. You know, people have thrown names out there, just Rick, you know, Ross. So, but I do know this here, my movie's going to break the box office. They never seen a story, you know, like my story. You know, I was featured in Esquire magazine's 80th anniversary. I've been on every news channel in the country and a lot around the world. So people were very aware of it. You know, people like, they don't really get it, right? That no money has ever been spent to market me. My marketing came from the streets, you know, from guys off the block. You know, they marketed me to the point to where now everybody knows my name, you know, where 4 rappers have used my name, you know. It's just amazing, you know, of where I've come in my life, you know, the 360. I believe I made a 360 turn from, you know, being illiterate to now being in a position to where I'm managing fighters that could be some of the best fighters in the world, you know. How do you deal with setbacks and losses, you know, during your amateur career? You know, a lot of people, you know, they can't handle defeat, and especially in boxing, you know. I had a kid I was working with out of Philadelphia, and he was 9-0, and he got a draw and quit, you know, just because he got a draw. You know, how do you deal with those things?
So when it comes to me and the amateur, this is the time for me to be making changes, getting ready for the pro field. So when I take a loss, I make sure that we go straight to the drawing board, work on whatever is needed, so that when I go pro, I don't have that loss on my record. So I make sure that me and my dad, we work whatever's needed to make sure that I don't have that type of loss again.
Yeah. Now, when do you think about turning pro?
It depends, maybe like 17, 18. Then I maybe get a deal with Showtime or something like that to where I can get to as many fights as I can to get a world title.
Okay, okay. Now, the other thing about that loss, now I know we all know Floyd Mayweather came and he did the 50-0, you know, thing. He never lost a fight. For me, that kind of messed up boxing because now I notice all the guys are kind of like afraid to fight each other because nobody wants to get a loss. You know, look at the Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford situation. You know, what happened to that fight? You know, why can't they? I mean, they're gonna make more money. Both of them would make more money than they ever made before in their life. You know, they probably never make that kind of money again. But if they don't fight, it's like you lose that opportunity to make that money. And I believe, I don't know, you tell me what you think about it. I believe that if you don't fight the best in the world, that you really didn't put yourself with the really elite fighters.
Yeah, I think that way a little bit too because now with the Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis fight, that's going to be it's something that also changes records. So I feel maybe they're trying to incorporate that more into the pro boxing.
Yeah, I hope so, because we got so many. I mean, and I believe the boxing game is suffering behind these guys not, uh, Tank not fighting Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson not fighting Devin or Tank or Ryan. It just goes on and on about these guys who they won't take the fights, and I believe that it should be a commission that commissions the whole game to where, and even with these sanctioning bodies, I wonder why they don't force the fights more so. Like, okay, if you don't fight in so long, we're gonna strip your title. If you don't fight certain guys, we're gonna take your title away from you. I mean, that kind of stuff I think hurts the business of boxing. This Tank and Ryan is probably gonna be the biggest fight of this year. They let a guy who don't even a YouTuber come in and really take over boxing. Jake Paul, he has bigger draws than anybody in boxing right now. I mean, that to me, that's ludicrous. I would never let nobody come into my business and take over like that. No, he would have a fight. I would have to wrestle with him.
Yeah. So say I was under your management. What would be the route you would take?
When I manage my guys, I don't know boxing, so I would never get involved with how you throw a punch or anything like that. My job with boxing, I don't know if you know the story, but Floyd Mayweather picked me up from the halfway house when I got out, and I was hoping that he would have allowed me to come into the boxing game with him. He didn't, and one day I asked him, I said, well, if you won't help me, let me meet Al, introduce me to Al. And he told me, well, you don't take nobody to the plug. And I kind of got offended by it because I always thought I was the plug. That was the first time anybody ever told me that I wasn't the plug. So what I decided to do is I said, you know what? I'm going to get a fighter. He's going to make more money than Floyd Mayweather made. And then he'll know who the plug is. So first thing that I do with my boxers is I put them in position to where they can make money. I want my guys to be where they don't walk in the ring because they need a check. They walk in the ring because they want to be in the ring and fight. Like their bank account is going to be good if they listen to me. And those are the first things that I would do. I would help you become more famous, where people know you, where they would demand to fight. Say, for instance, like what I'm doing with Anthony Peterson right now. Nobody really knew Anthony. But now he tells me when he goes to the airport, people want to take pictures with him. They want his autograph. I don't think that the promoters really promote their fighters. And the managers, most of them don't do their job either. I think if you had a manager that never answers his telephone, you don't really have a manager. You just have somebody to just ride along, and whatever you do with your boxing career, he goes in, he gets the money. A manager is supposed to be somebody who makes you money in ways that you had nothing to do with it. He just brings money to you, and that's what I would do if I was your manager. I would be working on getting you in movies, getting you acting roles, getting you speaking engagements, and some of these people probably gonna take my ideas, they always do. I would have you writing a book. Like right now, if I was working with you right now, I would be having you to write a book right now because you have already had some success. There would be people that would buy your book right now. Maybe not 1 million people, but you don't need to sell 1 million copies to make some money. I self-publish my own book. I'm a self-published author. So those are just some of the things that I would do right off the bat that would start to put money in your pocket where you don't need to go in the ring and fight like we see so many of these guys. We see Gerald Hurd fought last night and got stopped, and I imagine he was fighting because he needs the money. And a lot of these people, they don't really care about their fight. I don't know, I kind of fall in love with my fighters. Like they don't, like I hear these guys talking about stables and stables is for horses and cows. I don't look at people as something in the stable. I look at you as my brother or my grandson. You're young enough to be my grandson, so you would be more like my grandson than a stable, somebody in my stable. So those are just some of the things that I would that I would work with you on. I would have you read my favorite 3 books, the 3 books that helped me break out of prison, because I broke out of prison. They didn't let me out of prison. You know, people ask me all the time, how'd you get out of prison? Well, I broke out. But I broke out to a point where there's nothing they could do about it. And it was 3 books that really helped me do that.
Yeah. So, what would those 3 books be?
The Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich, and As a Man Think. We know in every sport, you know, you're gonna get hurt. You know, you're gonna get injuries. What do you do when you get injured?
So I make sure to let my father know, because any of those injuries can and get worse the more you train. So I let him know about it. If we need to take a break from boxing, maybe if it's a couple of days or maybe even a week. But I remember I did yoga. I was doing it like 3 times a week. Then my back started getting really sore from it. So
Yeah.
we took about a week off, and then I was good from there. So whenever injury it is, I make sure to let my parents know, and then we'll figure it out together. So being in Chicago, dealing with the drugs and violence, if say you met someone that wanted to get involved in that type of stuff, what would you let them know about that and how to stay away from it?
Well, you know, when you're talking to people about really anything, it doesn't matter what it is, illegal or legal, you first have to listen to their side of the story, and then you can maybe implement some of your story into what you're doing. So when I talk to, and I've been to Chicago, I talked to a lot of schools here in Chicago. That's, a matter of fact, that's how I met Minister Farrakhan. I was speaking at a school, and they wrote about me speaking at the school, and he read the paper, and then he was like, bring that guy to my house.
Yeah.
So doing good deeds pay off. But if I was talking to somebody about selling drugs, I would tell them, well, you can't just look at it from today. You got to look at it from today to tomorrow, next week, and then 5 years. Where is it going to lead you? You know, what was the outcome you was looking for? Because the outcome that you think may not be the right outcome. You know, most people in the drug business wind up dead or in jail. You know, that's usually the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So I try to let people know that you got to look at the whole picture. Don't just look at, oh, he got a nice car, he got a lot of jewelry, he got a lot of women. You know, no, that ain't the whole story. It's a whole nother story behind that. So I want them to look at the whole story. And that's why I wrote my book. My book deals with that from start to finish. You know, they can open up my book, and if they go to the back, they know how it ends. You know, which is with a life sentence without the possibility of parole. So I don't think that most kids want to be in prison for the rest of their life, you know. So that's kind of how I start off. You know, I don't tell them they shouldn't sell drugs, because you can't tell anybody what they shouldn't or should do. You can only give them the facts. And I believe that this system hasn't been giving people all the facts. They've only been giving them pieces of it. I mean, if you go, like right now, the TV shows that they got on TV, you know, Snowfall, which, you know, they stole my story too. They stole pieces of my story and put in Snowfall. And they only show the glamorous, the gangsterous side of the business. They don't show the end of it. You know, they're gonna have this guy winning, and he'll walk away scot-free and never go to prison and never get skirmished, and that'll make kids think that they can do like Rick Ross the rapper, you know, sell dope, and then at the end of the rainbow, you get a record deal with Def Jam Records, and that's just not the case. How do you stay disciplined to where you coming into the gym and you running? How many miles you run every day?
I would say about like a good 3 miles. But the way that I stay disciplined is knowing that at the end of boxing that I will be able to make a career for myself. The possibilities are endless. So knowing that once I turn pro, I have so many things I could do. Just knowing with boxing, I could always make a living for myself and do whatever I want to do in life.
Yeah, you do get, I mean, we look at the opportunities Mike Tyson is getting right now, you know, after his boxing career. You know, it's amazing some of the things that you can do after boxing. So boxing is definitely, could be a stepping stone. You should use it more as a stepping stone than, you know, a permanent thing. Like, you know, like I just said about Jared Hurd, where, you know, apparently when he made the millions, he didn't take the money and do the right things with it.
So, when it comes to drugs, violence, all of that, why do you want to leave this impact on Earth?
Well, I feel that being a black man myself, growing up in the ghetto, that we've been sold stories that increase the violence in our neighborhood. You know, like I was watching a video a couple months back, and they was interviewing this white guy. He's like one of the biggest radio station owners in the country, and they asked him something like this here. I'm gonna paraphrase it because I know I ain't gonna get it right. They said, would you put a record on your radio that was talking about killing cats and dogs? Mm-hmm. The guy said no. He said, would you put a record on your radio that's talking about killing black men? And he said, it's a cardinal who's saying it. So that hit me a certain way. I was like, wow, they would protect cats and dogs, but they don't care about protecting black lives. So I feel that it's my job to protect black lives, to help young black men like yourself learn from my mistakes so that you don't wind up going down the same path that I went down. Because I know now that I was brilliant all my life. Mm-hmm. I've always been brilliant. But by not having anybody to bring that brilliance out of me or let me know just because I didn't function well in this system, that makes me less of a man than anybody else. And I think that it's important that I not only be a role model for people to see that you can come from the ashes and rise up out of it and become, you know, maybe when it's all said and done, maybe one of the greatest men that ever lived. Now, me, I got a lot of role models. You know, and I've had a lot of role models in my life, and I understand that role models can be anybody from the drunk at the liquor store. It's who you're getting your information from. Those become your role models. You can have good role models, bad role models. What about you?
So we've always had the belief that it takes a community to raise someone. So when it comes to people that have helped me during my journey and who have been role models to me, it's the Bolingbrook mayor, Jesse White, people like that, because I've known them from a young age, and whenever we went to go see them, they gave me very good insight on the path to follow in life. And then also people like Wasfi, who have always been there throughout my career to make sure that I have everything that I need. And then people in Ghana as well have helped me a lot to get to the position where I'm at right now, including people like Alaji, who's like an uncle to me, who's also helped me get whatever I needed. So those people, and then my parents as well, because my dad, who has been in the boxing field before, and then my mom, who's helping me with my school. It's so many people that are helping me get to the position where I want to be.
What kind of books are you reading?
When it comes to books, I think I've been lacking in that sense a little bit, because whenever it just comes to schoolwork, I just focus on that stuff, but I don't really spend too much time reading books anymore. Oh, it is manga and anime, stuff like that, like the cartoonist type stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for being here. Thank you for having this time with me, and anything?
I thank you for having me here. Mm-hmm. Thank your dad for inviting me out. You know, I had a great time. You're a very interesting young man, and I definitely hope that I can put these hands on you and help you through your career. You know, I think that I could help you do some wonderful things.
Thank you.
Well, you're going to do wonderful things anyway, but I would just like to be one of the ones there, one of those role models that hopefully, you know, one day you can say, Uncle Rick.
Thank you.